AITA for telling my father I'll cut ties with him if he doesn't come to my wedding? Originally posted by UTerWadeADNC in our AITAH on July 27, 23, updated on August 7, 23. An NBSP. Trigger warning. Parental neglect. Less than. An NBSP. Original. July 27, 23. An NBSP. AITA for telling my father I'll cut ties with him if he doesn't come to my wedding? Throwaway because my younger sister knows my main account. My 26F father, 59M, is a slightly known musician in my home country. Due to his career, he missed out on most of my milestones while I was growing up. School plays, a few birthdays, and both my high school and college graduations. To name a few, mostly events he was informed of months in advance, and canceled on me either weeks or days before. He always apologized for doing so, but never really seemed to feel guilty. I remember we almost had a fight because I didn't want to watch a video he had missed my high school graduation to film. It hurt me so much as a child that I stopped expecting him to show up. It still bothered me when I got older, but at that point I understood that it was his job and I should be grateful he even had one. I'm getting married in early September. My fiancé, 28M, and I have been planning this wedding for a year and a half. The date was decided and invitations were sent months ago. Almost every guest has already RSVP'd. I've reminded my father of the date several times this past year, and he kept assuring me he had blocked the entire week of the wedding and would be there. A couple days ago, my father called to inform me he'd had to schedule a concert for my wedding day. He apologized and said he'd make it up to me with a gift. I don't want a gift. I want my father to come to my wedding. So I told him that either he figured out a way to reschedule, which I know he could probably do if he tried, or I'd cut ties with him. What followed was one of the biggest fights we've ever had. He called me ungrateful, spoiled and selfish for giving him that kind of ultimatum and expecting him to change his work schedule for my own benefit, which he has asked me to do on many occasions before. He yelled, and I held myself not to yell back. We're still fighting over this. Most of my family is on my side, though both my mom, divorced from my dad, and my fiancé have warned me not to make any moves I might regret. My sister, 20F, is on my father's side, which doesn't surprise me. I love my father and I really don't want to stop talking to him. But I'm done with him expecting to be able to miss out on my life with no consequences. That being said, I'd be lying if I said that I don't feel guilty. Just writing this all down made me feel like a huge brat. AITA? Edit. Thought I'd clarify some things. My mom and my fiancé are 100% on my side. They told me to be careful because they know I don't really want to go and see. Also, my mom has barely spoken to my father in almost 20 years and my fiancé is with me because we love each other, not because of who my father is. My father is not a struggling artist. He's been in this line of work since before I was born. I wouldn't consider him rich, but he lives more than just comfortably. If I thought he couldn't afford to reschedule a concert, I wouldn't blame him for not being able to come to the wedding. And yes, he paid child support and provided for both me and my sister. I do have other people who can walk me down the aisle. My stepdad, which would make my dad furious. So I might do it purely out of pettiness. And at least two of my best friends would be more than willing to. My father isn't paying for any part of the wedding. He offered to, but I declined. I don't live with him anymore. And both me and my fiancé have good jobs. When I was younger, I told myself that once I didn't need his money anymore, I'd never ask for it again. My sister isn't the golden child. He missed many of her milestones as well. Edit 2. I've tried acting indifferent before. It doesn't work. He interprets it as forgiveness. It's the reason why he still does this. An NBSP. In the comments. Don't cut ties till after you get his wedding present. Op. I could care less about presents. Especially coming from my father, pretty much anything he gives me comes with strings attached. That sounds like you have more problems with him than him not showing up to stuff. Op. Yep. We've had a rocky relationship for a little over a decade now. For various reasons, including his tendency of using how much money he'd spend on me and my sister against us. That's why I try not to ask him for anything. It's got nothing to do with why I'm threatening to cut contact. Though. NTA. But if he's busy providing for the family, he's NTA. Either it's a lose-lose situation. Sure, it's a important moment in your life, but this could be one of his last tours before he hangs up his boots and walks away from music. Op. As far as I know, he has no plans of retiring anytime soon. What will you tell your children when Papa misses their milestones? Oh, that's just how he is. Make the choice now if you're going to subject your future children to the same pain as you. Op. I wouldn't be surprised if I had to force a relationship between him and my future children. My paternal grandfather died when I was 15, and I barely remember his voice. Because not only did we only see each other once or twice a year, he lived in a different city. He also never tried to have a conversation with me, expecting him to change his work schedule for my own benefit. What does he mean? He changed his own work schedule to fall on prior commitments. Op. As he explained on the phone, he forgot about the wedding date while scheduling the concerts with his manager. His current girlfriend reminded him hours later. I knew he couldn't actually block the whole week. He'd promised the same thing before my high school graduation, but he could still avoid it. If he can't be bothered to walk you down the aisle, one of the most precious moments a father should look forward to, then you were never important to him at all. This was the final indication you needed to move on. Op. Before he canceled on me, he specifically said he wanted to walk me down the aisle. I didn't want him to. I hate the whole giving the bride away thing, but I'd agreed, because I thought it would be important for him. I need to ask if your father has not missed much with your sister and that's why she's taking his side? Was he available at her milestones? Op. Nope. He missed most of hers as well. My sister keeps taking his side for 3 reasons. She still lives with him. She has been belittling me since she was in elementary school. This is probably my fault, but I've been sheltering her from these things her entire life. The only reason why our father went to her high school graduation was because I berated him. As a teen, I took over her fights with him and played mediator whenever I had to. Basically, she never had many problems with him because of me. She doesn't know half of what I've done for her, and I don't really want her to. This specific concert is in a smaller city. For these, he can usually reschedule until ticket sales are announced, which they haven't been yet. There is some bureaucracy involved, which is why I've never asked him to do so before. But it is doable. He's doing well financially. He's been on 4 vacations to a nearby town he likes this year alone. He paid for my education, and is still paying my sister's. He's not Scrooge McDuck or anything, but rescheduling a concert won't affect him too much. An NBSP update, August 7th, 23. An NBSP update. AITA for telling my father I'll cut ties with him if he doesn't come to my wedding? Hey guys, a lot has happened, but I'll try to keep this short. I'll start off by saying that your comments on my first post were very eye-opening. Though some of the assumptions you made were wrong, I could see where they all came from. And most of what you said was so spot on it was painful to read. Someone said that my father doesn't see me as a person. but as an extension of himself. That one hurt the most, because it's the best definition of my relationship with my father I've ever seen. My father wasn't neglectful in the traditional sense. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old, and my mom had primary custody of me and my sister. But we still went to his place several times a week. My mother is a teacher and couldn't raise us on her salary alone. So he was our main financial supporter even after the divorce. Because of all of this, he seems to believe he was the best father ever. Whenever we fought, he always insisted I was wrong and ungrateful. Those same arguments were used whenever I demonstrated I was upset over him missing out on my milestones. In his head, for instance, I couldn't get angry if he missed my high school graduation or if he didn't pay attention to any of the projects I developed in college. Because he was the one paying for my education, I decided to stop complaining about this when I was younger, having realized I wouldn't be able to get him to see my side. This wedding incident felt like a turning point, though, especially since he wasn't paying for anything this time. It made me accept that he doesn't care how much he contributed anymore, but still believes I don't have the right to be upset. I now realize there's no winning this. If he doesn't come, I'll be devastated. If he does, I'll always remember I had to force my own father to come to my wedding. At this point, I'm not even sure which is worse. A few days ago, I had a discussion with my father over the phone, in which I expressed all of the above and more. And as expected, he called me dramatic, accused me of alienating myself, and berated me for talking to him the way I did. I hung up on him. This is how our fights have gone since I was a teenager. And it never solves anything. We haven't spoken since. I sent him a long text, basically saying I didn't want to hear from him until he was ready to both give me a sincere apology and own up to the status of our relationship as his fault. This is all wishful thinking. I really don't think either are gonna happen. I love my father, and I know he loves me to bits. But I can't do this anymore. He's been around my entire life, and still barely knows me for who I am. It's his turn to make that effort. Right now, I'm trying to muster up excitement for my wedding. I lost most of it these past weeks. My fiancé, my mom and my friends are all trying to cheer me up. And it's starting to work. I'm definitely feeling a lot better than last week. I'm really grateful to have them in my life. So that's it for now. Thank you all for your support on my previous post. An NBSP. In the comments. An alternative to your dad walking you down. What about that mom and sibling that you mentioned? My mom. Maybe. Definitely not my sister. I'm also considering my stepdad. Truth be told, I never really wanted to do that part in the first place. So we'll see how it goes. I say it might be best to have some therapy alone or with your new husband to learn and stop getting hurt by your father. Yeah, I'll look into therapy. I refused to for a long time, because I hate the whole opening up thing. But now feels like a good time to start. He will come running if you decide to have kids. But be careful and remember how he treated you. He will do the same to your kids. That worries me, too. My paternal grandfather was so aloof I have no memory of his voice. He died when I was 15. Nor do I remember ever having a conversation with him. He knew that was his fault and expressed regret. But not to my dad, who always idolized him. I think about having children frequently. But I never imagined my dad as a grandfather. Because I have no doubt he wouldn't recognize those mistakes. An NBSP. Flaring this ongoing as the wedding hasn't happened yet. Reminder. Do not comment on the original posts or contact the original poster. I am not the original poster. This is a repost. OOP's father easily accepted other commitments before his daughter's milestones, but he couldn't do The same with her in her life. Throwing money around and using that as an excuse for caring is nothing less than being lazy and a cheap loved one. Relationships are a two-way street. Wow. I can't believe Oop has had to basically beg her own father to go to her wedding. This should be the time in her life and he does not seem to care. Her sperm donor is all about himself. When she mentions to him how he has let her down again, he calls her entitled and more. What a horrid man. Well, this was painfully on the nose for me. Father seeing you not as a person but as an extension of self indeed. Time to bury my feelings under an avalanche of whiskey. Why on earth would she think he loves her to bits? It doesn't even sound like he likes her. Almost 15 years ago, I got married without any member of my bio family. I adore my new family that I married into. And I don't care that my sperm donor who was absent for most of my life was not there. I saw him only maybe all of 3 times ever. And I did not feel much towards him. I think in the case of OOP, her father was intermittent in her life. And from what I understand in terms of psychological science, intermittent reinforcement is much more powerful. She needs to find the strength to go full no contact in order to heal. Because it definitely does not sound like he will shape up to ever be a good father for her. Oop needs to not introduce any kids to her dad. He is just going to cause emotional harm to them, or if he doesn't flake on them, hurt Oop more. Because she wasn't enough, but he shows up for the grandkids. The feeling of, I know I love you and I know you love me, but we can't keep doing this, is one of the most heartbreaking ones to experience. Hope Oop continues to have her mom's and her fiancé's support, as cutting ties with someone you still love is never easy. She kept saying she hated the walking with a father figure part of the wedding. Just take it out. It's your wedding. I understand if she is held to tradition with the family, but some people feel they don't have a choice when they do. I'm petty as hell. If I was her, my stepdad would be walking me down the aisle and I'd post pictures of it. I'd also never allow him to have a relationship with any of my children. I'd also be letting little sis fight her own battles. I bet if she mentions that her stepdad will have to walk her down the aisle, he'll find a way to be there. He seems like the type to not want to do anything unless it messes up the image that he has for himself. Burn fire that relationship and never go back. I don't think her dad loves her to bits if he's being this petulant over her not wanting him to miss her wedding that he said he wanted to walk her down the aisle for. She should tell him to cover cats in the cradle during the concert that is the day of her wedding. Painful as it seems in the immediate time, going NC with him is probably for the best. It's more painful to be constantly disappointed than it is to mourn the loss of a relationship. So he brought up walking her down the aisle and then he scheduled a concert on the same day? I got that dog in me and it wants to bite this man. Bite him and shake. Yeah, she needs a good therapist hardcore. I know he loves me to bits. I feel like this is one of the biggest sentiments that makes kids in dysfunctional families hold on. It's incredibly difficult to extinguish the deep-set hope that something will happen and the person will change. And in the meantime, you always think that at heart, they mean well. My therapist recommended All About Love by Bell Hooks for me, which I'm still slowly trudging through, which is about how someone can't love you when they perpetually make conscious decisions and actions that do harm to you. They can perform acts of caring, but love can't exist in that environment. That was a kind of breakthrough realization for me. I wonder if subconsciously, or even deliberately, He books concerts and band stuff on days when someone else is going to be the center of attention. Because it's wild that he's managing to miss almost every milestone for both of his kids. Especially when there aren't any scheduling conflicts until right before the event is about to happen. This father isn't a good person. Op should have to keep surrounding herself around him when he clearly isn't a person to really rely on. Op should give the story to a tabloid and shame her dad XD.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.